So let's bring in John Torres, the president of Security and Technology Consulting for Guidepost Solutions. He previously served as the acting director of ICE, that is, of course, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today.
Always good to be here, Josh.
All right, so first off, I do have to ask you, because we know that Trump has declared a national emergency there at the border. What does that really mean for people out there, and what does it mean as a whole?
So it allows President Trump, by declaring a national emergency, to send troops to the border, not only military troops, but the National Guard, and have them support the effort to build the infrastructure and enforce the immigration laws and supporting the Border Patrol and Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And so what it's saying is President Trump is following through on a campaign promise where he said on day one he was going to shut the border down to illegal immigration, and by doing so, he's in effect enforcing immigration law through his border czar, through the Secretary of Homeland Security, and following through on his promises to make the country safer by not allowing people to come in the United States without really the United States government knowing who they are and ultimately whether they should be here legally or not.
Going a little bit deeper into that here, what has stood out to you about what Trump has had to say overall about the southern border, especially when you talk about his speech after his inauguration? He also spoke several times about it throughout the day at the different inaugural balls. What has stood out to you overall?
When you think about it, it's really been a top three issue that Americans have been concerned with, especially with this presidential election. It's been border, it's been crime, it's been the economy. And really, when you talk about the border, he talks about it in the sense of stopping terrorists, stopping drug dealers, stopping criminals. We understand that a majority of the people that want to come to the United States want to come here for a better life, for jobs. They want to claim political asylum. That's a whole nother process that he has talked about. But he spent the majority of his first day in office talking to various groups about the border. It tells me, and one thing that's really stood out is that he's serious about getting control of the border. And that's really what this is all about. When he says there's a national emergency down there, you really can't get back to a normal process of following through with people applying legally and understanding who we have at the border until you can get control of how many people are crossing.
As far as Trump's orders here, are they likely to face any sort of legal challenges based on your understanding? I imagine they will, but I wanted to get your take on that.
Yeah, 100%. And I see that from two different perspectives. One, from my time when I was serving in ICE. I faced over 100 lawsuits, especially as the head of ICE. The person at the top gets named in all of those lawsuits. So at one point, I was named in 135 lawsuits, a couple in my personal capacity, and it takes a lot of time out of your day. So part of that strategy by filing these lawsuits is to slow down and distract from the ability for the agency to enforce the law and to move forward. In some instances, the lawsuits may actually have some merit, but ultimately all of those lawsuits will be either settled or adjudicated on the merits. And so knowing that President Trump is only in here for one term, 4 years, in effect, a lame duck president coming in on day one, he has limited time to accomplish what he's trying to do, and these lawsuits are going to slow those down.
My last question for you, can you explain what the CBP One app is, and any surprise that President Trump did shut it down?
Yeah, no surprises at all. The Customs and Border Protection CBP app was developed over the past year and a half to allow people wanting to apply for political asylum to come to the United States. And instead of just presenting themselves at the border, they could actually go on their phones online and use the app to apply for an appointment. And then CBP would schedule appointments. They show up at the border on this day, and we'll process you and allow you to come into the United States without being detained. And then ultimately, there'll be a decision as to whether or not they're eligible for political asylum. Now, in reality, political asylum, 95% of the people that apply end up being denied political asylum because they're not eligible. And that has really become the biggest issue. So in effect, what President Trump has said is this is nothing more than an app that allows people to divert the regular immigration process and just come into the United States and stay, knowing that ultimately they're not going to be eligible for political asylum because really what they're looking for is economic asylum.
All right, John Torres, thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to be here. Anything else you want to add about any of this before I let you go?
It's going to be a busy 4 years, Josh. You'll have no shortage of news to cover here, and I look forward to being on your show to discuss it.
Yeah, thank you so much. You'll definitely be here a lot. We appreciate it. All right.